All right, Angela, share the good news.
Okay, so after the Engagement Power event, I had several schools reach out to me and ask if we could develop a collaborative of such to actually reach out to businesses and see how they're willing to work with schools and what level of involvement they're willing to have. So we developed a collaborative. It was with Maumee, Springfield, Rossford, and Perrysburg, all schools that feed into Penta, but that are also exploring some of their own career pathways, because of course we know that the career centers can't, especially like the Pentas, they can't serve everyone, and for whatever reason, some students don't go there. And so working on really making authentic experiences and adding value to their student schedules, they're working very hard to do that in collaboration with Penta. So we designed this program called Work-Based Learning Collaborative. We've met a couple times, and I have been going out to businesses and industry kind of facilitating that work. So I'm having the discussion with them. I've developed a notebook full of things from ODE that explains to business and industry what Ohio is looking for. What is the Ohio Department of Education doing? Because if you guys don't know this already, they don't know. I mean, I've been in this business for quite a while, and I always assume that people know more than they do. And then I get out there, and when I share with them, even the graduation requirements, just going through that, and I had several parents that I'm meeting with in the businesses who are parents of children in the districts, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they had to have these seals, or I didn't know this. I'm talking about the different types of work-based learning experiences, sharing with them some of the things that are online, the evaluation of potential work sites, the onboarding piece. The other thing I'm finding is that a lot of the businesses are hesitant and don't quite know how to work with young kids anymore, or teenagers. And so I've been doing a lot of coaching in that way. So I've been working again on behalf of this collaborative. The idea is once we have this kind of group of businesses, and I put together a spreadsheet, I can have the contacts on there, and they can design within their own what they want to do. I'll just give you an example. I went to Dana last week, and our conversation lasted so long that we had to actually schedule another time. And they're looking at offering experiences for the K-5 kids and doing some simulated experiences, and then working that up through junior high and high school, and then a different type of experience in high school. So it's a long game, and they know that. And so that's been really exciting. It's been interesting to go through. And once we have these templates set up, there's no reason they can't be shared with everyone. It's just that these are the 4 kind of incubator schools that we started with. So that's what's going on my end with all of this, and from those schools that are actively involved in all of this.
Angela, when you mentioned that businesses maybe aren't as aware some of the requirements going on, things like that, I mean, do you find businesses are looking for things like for example, the Ohio Means Jobs graduation seal? Do they see the value in this stuff, or are they learning about it for the first time? Are you in a place you can touch on that real quickly?
They see value in it, but I'm going to tell you that the businesses I've been working with are hearing about it for the first time. Unless they've had children in school that are doing it. And even those that have had children in school working on the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, they don't quite understand what it is or why the students are doing it. And they certainly don't understand the connection to having every student needing 2 seals for graduation. I always try to kind of quell that fear, because there's so many ways they can get those. And most schools are ensuring that they're getting them with their local seals, but they don't understand it. But they like it. When I go through those 15 skills, they're like, oh yeah, this is what we need, and this is really cool. And showing them the rubric, that's part of the notebook I'm sharing, the rubric and how you assess that, and talking to them about the different mentors and the different areas, the different mentors, and then the different environments. They love it, but it's, for most of them, new information that they'll be glad to hear. But yeah.
So it's more of a value added component at this point.
Right, yeah. Yeah. I'd be curious to hear from anyone else if they're with contacts with businesses, if they understand or know what the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal is. Is that something you're hearing as having any value to businesses right now? I'm seeing some no's.
Well, I think it's just because, like you said, I don't think they know about it. So that's the core of it, I think, is that they just don't know about the seals and the skills that are involved in obtaining those seals.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would echo that. In my experience, some of the credentials, they're familiar with the credentials because those are already in industry and being used in industry. But as far as the lingo that's coming from ODE and in regards to a seal and the Ohio Means Jobs components, that's the vernacular that the business world does not seem to be familiar with. But the skills and the credentialing, they are, and that's the valued component. So it's just kind of marrying those two schools of thought a little bit to help everyone understand that it is one and the same. We're just using different language. I think is that kind of the next step that's needed.
Yeah, Angela, I think the same thing. One of the issues that we've talked about before is that kids come out with pathways, but in terms of like employment and what employers are looking for, the IRC seals are actually a lot of times more valuable to employers in a lot of cases because they, for example, and this is a simple one, but like OSHA 10 or CPR, like those are the things that can translate over into the workplace very, very easy. And checkboxes, and some of our kids even get, start off with raises because of some of those pieces that they have. No one's getting any of those things with the ODEs like pathways necessarily, or some of these other ancillary pieces that for us are important, but for employers they're not necessarily seeing that that shift.
And the reason I asked is because just a little context on this, and then I know we move forward. Back when Angela Dietrich and I first started talking about this stuff in 2015,
A while ago.
a while ago, I know there was discussions of a concerted effort to let businesses know about things like the Ohio Means, the OMG Readiness Seal, for example. So it's interesting that has not happened yet. You'll notice the word yet. I appreciate what somebody said about how people are recognizing the value in the IRC seals because that speaks their language. And I'm just curious about now when this next push is going to come, when businesses start to be taught more about, hey, for example, the OMG Readiness Seal. These are the skills that you want in your employers. So apparently that penetration hasn't been there yet, but I anticipate that becoming. Interesting. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Who would like to share next with what's going on or how you've made any movement or what your plans are moving forward in this area? Okay, Angela.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Angela Cassidy with Toledo Public Schools. I am the newly appointed transition director this year. So we're just kind of starting out on this road, but it's very exciting. We have a lot of things going on. Just with the addition of my job title is pretty amazing, I think. But things that I've been doing are, I've been going out to all elementary school buildings with our special education director and speaking with principals, counselors, teachers about the importance of career-based instruction, starting at a very young age, with the caveat of, please, we need your help type of a situation. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback. I've gotten a lot of data, if you will, on how we need to proceed as far as a district is concerned regarding career awareness, career exploration, and things in the elementary, and then also the career planning process within the high school. So it's been very, very exciting. I have been in communication with our career tech department and have gone to all the high schools to see exactly what our district offers and talk directly to the teachers to figure out what skills are needed within those programs. We are looking at exploring with the curriculum department, our curriculum department, different ways and different IRCs that can be earned within career tech programming that we already have. Some that may not be 12 points, but some that may add up to 12 within one career pathway. So we're just starting that exploration process now, which is exciting. And matter of fact, I'm meeting with the curriculum department today to discuss those things. So we have a big plan, and we're executing it. We're just at the beginnings, and I'm just being honest, we're at the beginnings and we're kind of behind the 8 ball right now, but just again, the development of my job as it is just really, really exciting. So looking forward to other big things. I've been meeting with Lisa down at SST, and we've had some really good conversations around some of these issues as well. So that's TPS, and sorry, I just went on, and there's probably a lot more that I'm forgetting, but it's an exciting time for Toledo Public Schools.
Any questions for Angela Cassidy from the group?
I have a question, Angela. Are you working primarily with students with disabilities, or is a lot of this work that you're doing kind of universal?
It is universal, just because we know we have all students matter. Oh, something else I forgot to add is we are targeting all students with a pilot class that is going to have the Envision It curriculum to help students better get the readiness seal, the OMJ readiness seal. And that will be for all students. It's a co-taught class. So we're just in the beginning stages of developing that as well. So yes, thank you for your question, all students.
Okay, Angela, another question then. With the Envision It, what grade level are you going to be targeting that class to?
We're going to primarily target sophomore students, just because freshmen have a lot on their plate. They have a lot of classes that they have to take. So we're going to start with our sophomores. And again, this is a pilot class. So just starting it out, we'll be able to gather a lot of great data as to how we should move forward with this curriculum. So we're starting off with the sophomores, but that doesn't mean it can't be expanded at another time.
So is there another, like, have you carved out class time, or is this going to be embedded in another class?
It's going to be a separate class all by itself, and it will be a semester-long class right now until we, again, determine what the needs are and gather some more data.
Exciting. Where are you starting? Where are you piloting?
Rogers High School.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions.
Now, guys.
And one
All
other quick
right.
question too, if I may, about that. First off, that's awesome about Envision It and the OMJ seal. Personal note, I may want to pick your brain about that more moving forward too, because that's such a cool curriculum and a great idea. You talked about going to the elementary schools, talking about job awareness and things like that. Are you using the Career Connections framework to do that, or are you just kind of seeding these discussions with?
So one other thing that I forgot to mention is I did create a transition Google Classroom in which all of those particular items are embedded within that Google Classroom. So there's all kinds of resources in there. That Career Connections framework is in there, along with a lot of things about OOD and all area agencies. I have the Charting the Life course material in there for our parents and teachers for that matter. Oh, and we're having a lot of opportunities for professional development also. Monday being one of them. At Woodward, we're going to have all the area agencies will be there. So OOD, the Ability Center, things of that nature. Parents are going to be there. Students are going to be there of all ages and to learn more about the area agencies and section 5 of the IEP. This one is specifically geared towards students with disabilities. But that doesn't mean that all students couldn't benefit from hearing from the agencies, because even if a student doesn't have a disability, you never know in the family if there may be a person that may benefit from those services as well. So lots of opportunity for professional development as well for all stakeholders.
All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Sounds like you have a lot of really good things going on, and I can't wait to hear more about that 6 months down the road, a year down the road, as to how that all has developed for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who would like to share next?
We will. We've kind of done a lot of different things. You know, some things we already had in place, we just fine-tuned. But one of the areas that Valley is responsible for is career awareness and working on our career advising policy. We also did an activity with our one elementary school using there's a hat for that by Fleming. So I will let Valley speak to both of those.
Sure. So one of our elementary schools, we have 3 in the district. Their Right to Read Week actually had a career focus this year, which was amazing. And even the library had different career books all on top of their shelves and things of that nature. But we actually took every one of our programs over to the elementary school 3 times, and they actually talked to each of the class about a specific career based on their program of study. So it wasn't necessarily about our programs, but focusing more on their careers, and even had some of our students read some career focused books around that as well, to integrate both the academic and career together, which was very neat to see. Our students really enjoyed it. I think the elementary school did as well. Next year, I think we're gonna be looking to expand that to our other elementary schools, but maybe on a smaller scale, because it was quite the week. We actually did 2 shifts each day, so it got to be quite a lot on our end, but it was really great. And we actually, there's a hat for that. Our students also went to their family fun night and had hands-on activities, and they really enjoyed the book, which was really neat to see as well. So we've also been over the past couple of weeks trying to reinvigorate our career advising policy and trying to align our activities district-wide. And on a personal soapbox note, one of the things that really stuck out with me with Kevin is it being career ready, not career and college ready. And our curriculum director, after I talked with her about that, totally understood that concept. So I'm really excited that we're focusing more on being career ready and not career and college ready, as college is a pathway to a career and not your ultimate career. So that's been really exciting, but we're trying to align all of our activities between all of our buildings. I have our last meeting today to do so. So we're just trying to realign from that standpoint and trying to expand beyond just our career tech students, but all students.
Yep.
Is there anything else?
No, I think that's it.
One thing that I heard both Angela Cassidy and you folks say is you're reaching out outside of your own office, right? So you're going to others, you're going to the curriculum department, you're going into the elementary schools, you're making this more than the high school experience. It is really the Career Connections framework. It is a pre-K through 12th grade endeavor. And I love that both of you who have spoken so far, are seeing that, and you're being the people to be the movement makers and make that happen. So kudos to both of you for that. And love seeing that book.
Yeah. We had purchased it for all our first grade teachers. The elementary teachers felt that's where it fit best. So they read it to their students, and that was kind of the kickoff to the Right to Read Week event.
Very cool. Any other questions, comments from the rest of the participants?
I just want to say thanks, because you gave me a really great idea. We're going out for December they asked us to present at a couple of elementaries. And I just texted teaching professions and said, hey, let's buy this book and maybe that's an option for us. So if not, and I have to do the other 2 days, guess what I'm going to use to get in there. And I think it's fantastic. So I think I forgot about the book and I really appreciate you bringing that back up.
We might be able to get a discount on that book if we order directly through Kevin.
Okay.
So if you decide to order a quantity,
Yeah, it's probably going to be about 60 to 70. So I'll let you
just
know.
let me know
Yep.
and I will reach out and ask him, because as we'll talk about later, we're talking about another return for him this
Appreciate
June.
it.
So, yeah.
And Valley and Becky too, one thing too, that you may already be ahead of the curve on this, but one thing I've heard a lot of high schools doing that's really interesting, that fits into what you're talking about, was when they kind of celebrate the graduates, they start posting about industries they're going into as well as colleges. So they gave, I think, those celebration boards or whatever, like some schools have, like, oh, they're going to OSU or BG or whatever. Schools have been talking about celebrating like different career fields and career paths that students are going into as well. So as you start to shift more to that career piece, that may be something to consider or look into. That's pretty powerful, because what it does is it recognizes that everyone graduating is going somewhere to do something. You know, our kids go to college are just going to college. They don't know what they're going to be doing. But so I think it's important to recognize not or two that the student's going into engineering or going into welding or going into IT. So again, as you continue to make that career focus, that might be just something else to kind of start to look into.
At our graduation ceremony, we announced the student's name and then what they're doing. So if they pass their cosmetology board, we say they're entering the cosmetology field. If they're joining a union hall, we say that. So, and then if they're going to college, we don't say what they're going to college for, but we do say what college they would be going to. Or if they're in the military, we say what level they're going into or what branch they're going into. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
And so one of the things we're toying around with, once we get our pathways in place, once Mrs. Dietrich gets us all squared away on what we're doing, I feel like I meet with her like every other week on something. But we're contemplating having almost like a signing day for the end of our sophomore year, not to actually declare like this is what the kid's going to do for the rest of their life. But once we get all of our pathways in place, what we'd love to do, whether it's a kid on our AP track or a kid who's going into welding or a kid who's going into IT, they kind of make a declaration at the end of that sophomore year, like here's the pathway, here's the intention that I'm going to have over the next 2 years, because those last 2 years of high school can a lot of times be lost for those guys in terms of the importance, like they're just trying to graduate. So we're really trying to build something that builds up those last 2 years, almost not exactly like, but almost like a Penta County declaration. So even, you know, like I said, if I want to be on an AP track where I want to do X, Y, or Z when I leave, or if I want to do IT, or if I want to go into carpentry, like we're going to have a pathway for that career. And we're going to spend the last 2 years of high school working towards that specific career field. So we're not there yet, but like long-term, like that's our vision. So we're trying to bleed that down as well. Obviously, we have our like PTLW in the middle school. We have a biomed piece that's going into that. We have 3 great teachers at our middle school that are exposing careers in all those pathways. So as those 8th graders and 7th graders come up to our high school, we're hoping that gives them 2, 3, maybe even 4 years of exposure to careers that, again, just because a kid declares when they're 15 years old that this is kind of what I want to do, doesn't mean that's what they're going to do, but it kind of gives them at least some type of direction for those last 2 years of high school, which is some of the things that we're losing now with our upperclassmen.
Ryan, we're thinking about the same kind of thing with a signing day, but actually with our seniors. So we have a lot of seniors that sign athletic. We're thinking about doing the same thing for a senior that's accepted a job somewhere, right? Or is going to a trade school, kind of the same thing coming from that end. So we're really excited about that as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can I just ask what school districts you guys are from? I'm so sorry. I'm new to this, so I don't know everybody. So if you guys can just tell me where you guys are from, thanks.
We're from Oregon City.
Springfield local.
Washington local.
Hi, good morning.
Angela Cassidy is from TPS.
And so is Sarah.
Good morning. We're from Anthony Wayne. We did something similar when you talked about a signing day. So last spring, historically, we've had Declaration Day where our students declared what college they were going to go to, our seniors. We shifted it last year to what's your E? And so all of our students were able to participate, not just if you were going to college. What we were finding historically in the past, students would say, oh, I'm going to go to UT or I'm going to Owens or BG. And even if that really wasn't their plan, they almost didn't know what to say if they weren't going to college historically. So last year we had their recruiters come in if they were going into the military, and we did, the photo op in that way. We also had various members from different unions and trades come in for those students who were going right into the workforce. And so we kind of flipped the script a little bit as a non-CTE school. So we partner with Penta. A lot of our focus has just been this paradigm shift within our district. So a lot of conversation about, it's not career or college ready. It's not a college focus per se, that is one of the options. We've done a lot of work on kind of, the 3 E's has been a lot of our conversation. One of our mission statement is, to create and to empower our students to be future ready generals. And so we've had this district-wide conversation on what does future ready mean. We partnered with Penta. They had recently hired Missy Emmer, and I don't know if anyone has spoken with her. She's come in and worked with our 2nd and 5th graders on different career exploration activities and awareness, I should say, not exploration at that level. And then when we get into our junior high, we're reshifting how our junior high students are exposed to different career pathways so that then when they come into the high school, they have a much more broad picture of what their possibilities are. Here at the high school, we've done a lot of work of just, like I said, that awareness and kind of that paradigm shift. So we talk a lot about industry recognized credentials, and yes, you might be a core teacher where those credentials aren't applicable per se in your classroom setting, but that's still something that you need to be aware of, something that you can understand how those students who can earn these credentials can take them outside of our high school, and just a lot of conversation along those routes. We also, just little things too that we started changing. So one of the things our students could be excused from school for was college visits in the past. We changed that to future planning is an absence reason. And the purpose there is it could be a job shadow, it could be a college visit, it could be meeting with your military recruiter, kind of the gamut of things that a student may be missing school for to work on whatever their future plans might be. And then we also started a book study with Kevin Fleming's Redefining the Goal. And that has brought some really robust conversation to the table. Again, a lot of folks who we're good at school and we know school really well as educators, but just kind of opening our eyes to, we want to help our students be prepared for what their future is. And so a lot of kind of movement in those areas here at school for us.
Stephanie, I wonder, as you've been talking about kind of shifting this paradigm and talking with I always say, quote, core teachers about how they need to have some ideas of the IRCs and what's happening with all these things. Are you getting any pushback? Are people ready to kind of embrace that? And what's the experience been in helping to lead this shift?
It's been interesting, to say the least, and a lot of it's just awareness, and we've had some mixed bags of some feelings. I think, that I don't need you to do anything different in your classroom, but it's little things. So historically, I would have walked into a room and heard something like, if your professor tells you that you need to print your paper on purple when you turn it in, you better print that paper on purple. Little things. If your boss or your employer asks this of you, those are kind of the expectations of how you're, it's those little, that it's not all a college focus. And then when we talk about the credentialing, it's when I forget who mentioned that, students are getting a raise just by having certain credentials, and we're seeing that as well. I know some of our local businesses are, giving a $3 raise just for having a certain 6-point credential, even if the student isn't working for the full 12 points, and just starting the conversation of this is why it's applicable to our students. The job market is so different from what it was when majority of our staff was graduating high school and in college. And so it's helping, I think, a lot is when you can put it in terms of your own personal children, or your friends' children or family, that the world outside of education is a lot different from what it used to be. And kind of starting the conversation there, I think, has helped more than anything.
Thank you. Any other questions for Stephanie?
Stephanie, can you maybe talk a little bit about that? If there is any pushback, or, maybe what some of the roadblock or mindset shifts that still need to happen in your district, and you don't need to name names, just some of those big ideas so that the rest of us could be more prepared for that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a totally valid question, Lisa. I think right now, one of my teachers just said fatigue right now is I think what everyone's experiencing. And that's probably the big roadblock. We've been in this tumultuous situation in schools for a couple of years now where consistency is not always present. And so how to kind of broach these conversations where we don't need you to change anything, just maybe think maybe a little differently about how we're preparing students for what they will do when they leave high school, because graduation to me is not the finish line. It's actually the start of what their future will be. And so kind of just consider that, and consider little things when you talk with a student. This is all I really ask of our staff. When you talk with a student, it's not where are you going to school next year? What are you doing after you graduate? And that kind of thing. So really just kind of baby steps that awareness. I've been throwing a few data and some stats out at folks, not overwhelming, intentionally kind of little piecemealing that a little bit along the way of, some of the stuff that Kevin Fleming and Hans Meter had brought up in June of what the job market looks like, and what are the skills that students are going to need, and how that is maybe different from what it was in the past, and how we were preparing students. We don't need this paradigm shift is like all paradigm shifts. It's going to take time, and it's going to be slow as we get there. So kind of those baby steps along the way, I think, would be my piece of advice.
I had a
Great.
quick question for Stephanie, if you don't mind. I'm just curious, the book study that you mentioned that you said had robust conversations, who participated in that book study?
It's an ongoing study right now, Angela. So we have, what do we have? About 8 or 9 of us in the study. We have 2 teachers. The rest were counselors and administrators who were participated. We opened it up to primarily, we started at our high school, and then I did open it up to anyone in the district who was interested. And so we have quite a variety of lenses that are brought to the table when we do meet. Which is good. And I think everyone then, because it's a group who doesn't necessarily all sit in the same room on a normal basis, can then take what we talk about and kind of, map it out to others in the district. It's been really good. It's called Redefining the Goal. I don't know if you've read that one, but it's been really good. Again, interesting, those of us who are in there have our own children at various ages too. And so to hear, oh my gosh, if I had read this 3 years ago before my own personal child, maybe, graduated high school, like that comes up a lot in the conversation. And then I'm hearing that kind of trickle its way out of the book study as well, which is ultimately the goal.
And I guess my maybe 2 cents too, we've had to have a shift as well in terms of our high school teachers in what they imagine post-high school plans are. Luckily for us, we have the actual data to support. And so this year we were at one of our building leadership team meetings, and I stated that 50% of our students attend post-secondary, but on average, only 30% complete it. and all of their minds were completely blown. They had a totally different perception. So that one little fact, and even when I'm meeting with the other counselors and building principals, when I state that too, just that one little thing is kind of like my little nugget to get them to shift from post-secondary education to a robust feeling or a robust area. So I'm not sure what your data looks like, but if you have the data to support it, that's been a huge piece this year for us in getting people to shift their mindset themselves.
Ellie, I think that's a really good point. And another, some of the data that we've talked about a lot is what is the job prospects? What are the requirements of those job prospects? So at one point in time, a career that used to require a 2 or 4 year degree, now you're seeing big companies, Google, Microsoft, IBM, not wanting a person, I shouldn't say they don't want it. It doesn't bother. The requirement of having that degree is not there any longer. That instead these huge companies, these Fortune 500 companies will train you so that you get right into the workplace from a high school degree, much differently than it used to be. And that has been another set of data that has opened some eyes as well. But I love what you said about, how many are going to college, how many complete it. I think both of those things kind of in unison or provide a good picture for staff.
And sometimes shocking, you're right? Because as Aaron has said before, all of us probably on this call, we loved school. We had a good experience in school. So we went to school to return to school. And we just assume that that's the experience for everybody, but not everybody who goes off to college completes college. And most data for Ohio is going to look just like what Oregon Clay said. They're sending half your kids, but half of your kids are not completing it. So that's a great data point to share. Angela, I also wanted to add, Angela Cassidy, TPS does have a book study going for redefining the goal as well. Your JTC teachers, they are doing a book study with me on that book as well. So if you wanted to hop into that, you might want to reach out to them and see if they've got an extra copy of the book.
Thank you for that, Lisa. I bought one when we were sitting there listening to him and he was plugging his book. I immediately went onto Amazon and bought it. So I have it.
Well, lots of great sharing. I think one or two more of you have yet to share, so
I can jump in if that's all right.
that'd be great.
New guy in a position that's been here for a long time, and we're shaking things up a little bit, right? So, for example, I just started having discussions with all of our programs just to make sure that that they're excited about what they're teaching and that their courses are still feeling good, their pathways and things like that. So we're starting those conversations. We've hired a workforce development specialist this year, but he's tasked with a lot of things that Valley's working on and Angela's working on, connecting our elementaries all the way up through, but then also making sure our students have access to work-based learning opportunities and how are we expanding those things. We're also working through our application overhaul. I know a lot of districts and a lot of CTPDs have been working on that, but how we're giving access, Angela said this, Valley said this, to all students, right? How are we reaching every student that we offer? I'm trying to be more intentional about that. So in the future, I do hope we reach out a little bit more and we're doing a better job with career awareness, right? I really want to focus on that, but right now my order of importance puts some other things on the top. So a lot of good work and a lot of great conversations has spawned out of this, and excited for where we're going in the future, but lots of work to do now too.
Any questions for Tom?
Tom, with your work-based learning, how do you guys run that? Like, what's your kind of order of operations for your staff and your students who are involved with that in terms of like getting hours turned in and tracking all the pieces that go into the WBL?
So we stole from Oregon Clay. They're tracking.
Else,
we're using their they have a really great hub for our students that all of our teachers are managing. But what's been really great with Scott's position is if we have specific companies that come and say, hey, we're looking for students to come out and do internships or job shadow, he's been the go-to. So he's coordinating all those efforts. But then as students are completing those hours, they're able to log those right through their career tech programs.
So do you have a person who oversees your WBL then?
Yeah,
Scott does.
he's new this year. Yep.
Okay.
That's Valley. Valley for Clay, right?
And Tom, what can you talk a little bit about like what has the reaction been to this work dropping down into the elementary? And are the staff receptive as far as you hear the students receptive? Can you just talk about a little bit about what that's looking like?
So one of the other new initiatives we have, we're only in our second year of K-6 STEM courses. And so it's kind of been a natural connection for us at that level where students are really starting to explore just other things, right? Other than art, music, which are all wonderful, right? And physical education, but also starting to get into that, how do I do that critical thinking piece? And so I would say it's pretty receptive. I love the fact that Stephanie talked about that mindset shift of what are you doing after high school, right? Not where you're going to school. And I still think we have that here. And I think that's something that we can continue to improve on. So Aaron, I think to answer your question, I think it's pretty receptive, but really just the students are excited about it. And I think that's what's pushing a lot of what we're doing.
I'm sorry, I have another question. You can tell I'm new because I'm asking all kinds of crazy questions
No
here.
need to apologize.
So can I just ask, staff-wise, how many staff do you have that coordinates your career tech, special ed, students?
So right now we have at our school, I'm the administrator for our career tech. I'm the associate principal. We have Scott Villar, who's also an administrator who works in our workforce development. And then we just work kind of side by side with our curriculum department and then our special ed as well. That's going to have to be a shift for us as we start to open up these applications. It's going to have to be a more intricate conversation. In fact, I had our department chairs for our high school special ed in my office yesterday. And I'm going to need to ask for more support, right? Whether we have someone that's dedicated to our building. I'm starting to advocate for that, and our building principal is totally on board, but we also have to get central office in line with that too.
At Oregon, we're comprehensive. It's me as the director of career tech, and then I have Valley, who her title is teacher on assignment, but she does work-based learning, all the career advising. She does what's called seminars, which is 9 through 12, getting students on Ohio Means Jobs, working on graduation plans, working closely with our 4 counselors that we have in our building. We work very closely with all of our intervention specialists in the building, and also the director of student services whenever she is needed. But again, same thing with admissions into our programs. It becomes sometimes difficult when you know that certain students you want in the program and certain students may not be successful in that pathway. So we work very closely with all parties to make sure that it's the best place for the student at certain times. But other than that, this year we found we had a huge uptick in enrollment. So we were very excited about that. And we have been faced with struggles due to the new way that we're doing our admittance policy. But so far, it's been a good year. Our main thing is still attendance from COVID and people who are still in our online school that come in just for career tech. We're having attendance struggles with that. Doesn't mean they're special ed or not special ed. It's just a combination of both. And it's just that group of students who lost some foundational dedication skills, so we're trying to help with all of that. But
Thank you for that. That's very honest. And I'm facing the same struggles, and I don't want this to all be about me, of course, but I was just wondering what other districts are doing as far as staff. Right now, I'm the only person that's kind of bridging the gap in my district between student services or our special ed department and career tech. And so I just didn't know staff wise what other districts were doing, what I should be prepared for, I guess. So all of your input is very valuable. So I appreciate that.
Well, and I think that's where they added my position in with regards to the magnet high schools, because unlike some of the other districts on the call, we have the magnet high schools that have some of the specialty programs like Toledo Technology Academy and the aerospace high school. So I work with some of those specialty programs to do the intakes and the interview process for some of those programs. So Angie works with the career tech side of things, with most specifically the traditional high schools, because we have the career tech programs embedded in our traditional high schools, as she implied. So she's sort of the last stop there with the career tech. But I work now with the magnet high schools in the special ed, and I bridge that gap. So that relieves some of her pressure there. So I've taken that off her plate this year with my position. And I work with the special education there, and those students are on my caseload, and the new medical school is on my caseload. So I do that along with some of the other new programs, and some of the older programs like our virtual schools are on my caseload, and working with those with regards to the transition of those students and their programming. So that's my role within the district with regards to those things, and making sure those students are an appropriate fit for the program.
So I think that's
Sarah?
good.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's good conversation that you are talking about this, because what I'm hearing with Ryan on the call and Stephanie on the call, we are looking at expanding opportunities for students to either get work-based learning or industry recognized credentials, or in career tech programming, or all three, right? And there are going to be some students who will need some support, maybe some ladder rungs that they need help at each step. And we need to make sure that we are thinking about that beforehand, so that we're providing that support as the students need it, and not as, oh, they're struggling, what can we do? Just to be more proactive with that, and thinking about supports that would need to be in place for some of our students.
Okay.
Can I jump back and ask Tom a question?
Absolutely.
Tom, I'm going to ask you if you could share. I think you've done a really nice job with creating a team, because you talked about that you are overhauling your admissions practices. And if you could just share about the team that you developed to look at that. I was really impressed with all the different people you had at the table for that.
So I started simply at our CTC department meeting and just said, who wants to be involved in this conversation, right? We're going to look at doing our applications differently than we have. Here are kind of our two main goals, right? We have to have access for everyone. And we can't, basically, there's no reason to say no to a student, right? And so kind of with those guidelines in mind, had about eight teachers that said they wanted to be part of that. Also was cognizant to reach out to our special ed chair, as well as our JTC coordinators, and have them involved in that conversation, and include our director of equity for the district, and then sit down and have a conversation first about kind of why we're doing this, right? Perkins 5 says so, okay? And then look at some of the data, just at how is our demographics spread out, right? From ethnicity to even students with disabilities. So sharing that information and then having some open dialogue, challenging dialogue for a lot of our teachers. But they also understand why we're doing the work and how we have to do moving forward. And so we've looked at our application process, and our plan now, because we're kind of right up against that application, is to get students applying this year and then kind of open it up again to everybody. And then once we have those kids enrolled, really early in the spring next year, asking students why did they, or more importantly, maybe why didn't they apply to a program, right? So who are we missing, and are we communicating well to all of our students as to what we have available and how they would fit, or why maybe they know they wouldn't. Does that answer your question, Lisa?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we've covered most of you. Sarah, I know you didn't share too much. Is there anything else you wanted to share about what has changed or you have plans for implementing since the June 1st and 2nd event?
At this point, I'm really working on making better connections with my programs and how things are implemented within those buildings with what Angie is doing, and maybe expanding, working with her to expand some of those programs to be a little more inclusive. And we've talked about, between the two of us, how to add to those programs and work with the administrators in those different schools on how to expand those programs and add to them. In addition to improving some of the processes for working on how to bring students into those programs. So as I've come into this position and working with these schools, these different magnet schools which are all very unique in their own ways, because I touched on a couple of them, but there are several that I work with. Very, very different environments in each building. There are very different opportunities for students in each building that I look forward to fostering for students. So it'll be interesting to see what we can do, the two of us, in working with the administrators and the staff in each building to try to open new opportunities for students.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah? Did I miss anyone? Does anyone have something else to share?
Can we pop back to Ryan? Ryan, I know there's a lot going on at Springfield. Is there anything more you'd like to share before we move off? And then we have Zach, who's joined us just recently.
Sure, I can give you like my quick elevator pitch, because I got about 3 minutes before I got to jump into my next
Okay.
meeting. But one of our big focuses, and Stephanie can probably attest to some of this, we struggle with getting kids to Penta right now for a myriad of different reasons. One of them, they don't want to leave their home building. It's overwhelming. I mean, we have high levels of anxiety with our kids that are coming in now. So there's a whole list of things that kids just don't want to, for whatever reason, go to Penta, even though it's amazing and great. And they have so many awesome things that they do out there. So one of the things that we have been working with Angela on is, how do we bring some of those pieces in-house? So, obviously Whitmer is way ahead of the game with anything that we would be able to do with their resources and set up, and just their past that they have their own CTE facility. But we're looking at what is the interest of the student population that we have. And again, looking at career pathways, what are the ones that we can bring in-house, not to compete with Penta, but to help support the kids that aren't able to either make it to Penta for whatever reason. So we have those kind of things in the works. We do have a business CTE pathway that we already have up and running. We have culinary that we're have up and running, and we're looking to start construction or carpentry as well here in the next year or two. We have a couple others in the works, but like that's our jumping off point to see if we can dip our toe in this and make a run at it. It is tedious and it's a lot of work, and it's something that, since we haven't done it for a long time, and we've leaned on Penta to take, I don't want to say burden, but a lot of that stuff off of our plate, we're just new to so much of it. So they've actually been really helpful the last month or so, coming and meeting with us and just helping us write things and looking at grants and those pieces. So we're kind of moving forward with those. We do, our big push though is to, again, push some of these things down into our junior highs to see how that's going to work and how our engagement, to be honest, with our students is lacking. That's the biggest thing that we get from teachers, from parents, even from students with attendance and all the issues we're facing is, how do we re-engage our students to get them into our buildings to actually feel that there's some type of value at the end of the day when they're being taught by our teachers. And so again, that's the push for us to have many staff members at our middle school level who are in our STEM and in our biomed. And we're working with Brian Bosch at UT. He's going to come in and give presentations on a variety of different engineering pieces, that jobs that are out there, not just degreed engineering jobs, but if you come out with various IRC certs, that you can start to get into some of these fields of, welding's a big one, but if you talk to anybody in terms of like dyes and all that kind of stuff like that, that is like almost a dying profession at this point. So we're looking to try to really expand the engagement with our students through some of these processes, because that's our drop off, right? That's the fight that we're fighting right now with our kids.
Ryan, if I can say one thing, I can echo entirely the interest in students leaving their home school to go to Penta, to our CTE partner. We made a little shift last year in 8th grade. And all we did when we introduced the students in 8th grade to the 3 E's, we talked about Penta as education, not employment. It was the first time we were very intentional that Penta and trades are in the bubble of education, because you have to be trained in order to get a career. Our high school counselors, when they met with our 8th graders about registering for freshman classes, came back and said, why are all these 8th graders interested in Penta? We've never had this big of an influx before. And that's the only change we made. And I think,
and I know like Penta is also looking at that. They feel a pinch too, and in some regards,
yes,
because of the engagement and the students that are coming, I know that they're starting to look outside of their traditional box of
right.
these kids that we get come in. We wholesale educate, train, lab. We do all of it here. I know that they're like, all right, how do we open this up so we are impacting more kids?
Right.
How do we set up satellites? How do we do half days? How do we do labs? So it's just all of us. It's going to take a while, and it's never going to stop. Like, we're constantly going to be evolving and circulating through this. But that's the direction I feel that we're all traveling together with. So it's a good thing. And I do apologize. I do have to jump off, because if I don't get this one, my PD is going to fall apart next week. So I got to go to my next meeting. It's good seeing all you guys.
Thanks, Ryan. As he jumps off, I want to say that most of you know I worked at Penta for a time many years ago. I have seen a huge shift in their approach too, to how they're thinking about things. So I think that the shift comes not only from us at the other schools, and I know Becky and Valley have been really huge leaders in what they've been doing, and their program tracker and their hours tracker is all over the state by now, and they've done some really great work. And I really appreciate that. But I think that shift is more global than just the schools that feed into the career centers, or even just the comprehensives. It's really hitting everywhere. And I think in the end, it'll benefit kids, which is really great. So Zach, would you like to share with us, tell us where you are and kind of what's happened, or if they have had any changes or any implemented any programming since the June 1st and 2nd?
Angela.
Yeah, I see I see Stephanie smiling there. So I'm here just to support Anthony Wayne as part of their
Oh, okay.
business advisory council. So I follow what they're doing and just listening in on what's going on here. Thank you, though.
Well, thank you for joining us.
You know, one thing that when Ryan was talking, he said that it's a kind of like it's evolving and it's going to continue. Like it's really that 5-step process in action of looking at where we are, what we need to do, implement, evaluate, tweak what we need to tweak. That never stops. If you stop doing that, the wheel stops moving and we don't move forward. So all of you who are on this call today, great job. I can't say that enough, because just the things that we have heard you share have been fantastic, and you're doing great work. I know there may be times that you feel like maybe you're a little behind. You're not. The fact that you are working actively on this, you are the early adopters in the state, and kudos to you, because you're doing good things for kids and you're making a difference. Truly, I mean that. So, thank you.
We would like to add one more thing, piggybacking off of Ryan's comment. And Lisa, for sure, sometimes we feel like we're spinning our wheels. I think sometimes I go to meetings within my district, and if I say career tech 1,000 times, they look at me like we're sick of hearing about career tech, but I keep saying it. But with our middle school or our junior high, so I used to be the principal there, and our programming for our exploratories or electives have been the same, I think, since Oregon City Schools was created. The only program, we got rid of our wood shop and our home ec, and then we started what we call STEM, but it really isn't STEM. It's back to the wood shop kind of class. And so we started looking at that. Like, we have a couple teachers retiring, we're teaching 7th grade health and 8th grade health, and our 8th grade health is for high school credit. Why do we need 7th grade health? So we really started digging into that last year. We had a change of administration there again at Facet Junior High. So we have been talking with the new principal about, we need more career tech programming down there. So we've come up with 5 new courses to be taught, but basically taking like our computer class, but changing the name. And we're taking our pathways here up at our high school and blending them together. So for example, ag and culinary are going to be taught together, and the class will be food science. Med technologies and cosmetology are going to be taught together, and it's going to be more about anatomy, physiology, CPR, some of those 7th grade health concepts. And then we have our performing arts, which is band and choir, and then they have an acting class there. And then our computers is our teaching professions, which is a new program for us. Our programming and marketing will be taught together. So, and then we have our manufacturing, engineering, auto, and construction together, and which would be our STEM class. So we're changing that up, redesigning it. And the biggest part of it all, students get to choose. They're not told they have to take these classes. They're going to be able to choose. So we're really, really excited for next year, because this year 6th and 7th graders will be able to take these courses and choose which pathway and explore and all of that good stuff now in our junior high. So
That's exciting.
That is terrific. More things that Valley and Becky could talk about more to more people. All right. Well, I think everyone now has had a chance to share, and again, just so impressed. But I'm going to turn it over to Angela, because Angela and Aaron and I have been working on bringing Kevin back. And so Angela is going to give you some details on that, and hopefully you will decide to participate again this summer.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, we're really excited. We're working on getting Kevin to come back. It's going to be a joint effort between State Support Team and the ESC once again. And the thought, and this is from feedback from your reviews from last year and from talking with you, we're asking Kevin to come back and go deeper with his work, and to, at the end, of his day, which will be June 1st, we're hoping that you will have a more defined plan or goal that you're hoping to work towards. Then day 2 is going to be facilitated by Lisa, Aaron, and I, and we're going to be doing some implementation science to help you design your action plan. Who's going to do what, when, put a timeline to it, give you, basically day 2 is for you to work. I think our facilitation will be minimal. We want to just provide some guidance, some formats, if that's helpful to you. I'm hoping, crossing fingers, I'm hoping to even be able to provide some lunch on one of those days that you don't have to go out, so you can sit and work together as a team. I mean, a lot of times as educators, we always think, oh, they want to go out for lunch, that's better. But some of the feedback I had last year was, hey, if we could just have that hour to work together, if we could have lunch together in there, that would be helpful. So our thought this year is to work with a smaller group of teachers, a smaller group of teams. We still want those teams with administrators, teachers, counselors. I'm hearing the cry from districts, and that was much of the feedback was, we need our counselors here. We need our counselors. So if you've been involved and you came to our first session, and we'd love to invite you back, especially this group of people that are actually implementing more and going deeper. Sometimes we cast a really broad net and try to bring everyone in and get the thought going, but there are always people that are willing to do a little bit more and push a little harder. So that's what we're hoping to capture with this next Engage to Empower 2.0. I don't know exactly what we're going to call it yet, but that might be it. And so we're hoping that we can bring teams together, go deeper with Kevin, and then a little bit of facilitation assistance on day 2. And just as much as assistance, I'd like space and time. Like, can you sit and work together as a team and dedicate that time out? So that's what we're working on, and we'll be getting that information out to you soon. We have to work out a few more contractual details and things like that. But if you're interested, I hope you can start to kind of assemble your teams and think about that. Again, it's going to be June 1st and 2nd. Kevin will be here June 1st. So any questions on that? Comments? Okay,
I'll
so
just add too that we're intentionally keeping it small. So those of you who came to this session today and were willing to share what you've been working on, you're our group. If you would decide not to participate, then we may look at inviting others, but we don't plan on having the great big room and all these different schools. It will be a more intimate setting. You'll get more time with Kevin. It will just be a smaller group this time.
Yeah, we really
Power
want to help.
paper.
Yeah, we want to really help support the implementation. Like we said at the beginning of this, we recognize what you're doing. We recognize the dedication you're bringing into this. So if we can provide the opportunity to have that very small group interaction experience with Kevin, who clearly is an expert at this stuff. You know, he is the guru of this work. So we're really hoping that you can make this work. We tried to put this towards the end of the school year for you so that breathe, decompress, take the time at the end of the year to look at this, and then move forward to continue to support your implementation next year. Because like Lisa said, the word we use a lot is evolve. Things are evolving, you know, and it's good. And we just want to continue to provide you as much support in making that happen as possible. So we're really, really excited about bringing Kevin and again, keep it to a very small group with all of you and your teams, just to give you that level of support on this.
I want to say that, you know, I was very inspired after the June 1st and 2nd event, but I don't think I've been as excited about what's going on out there until I talk to you guys. I mean, this day, I really appreciate it. You guys are inspiring, you push us forward, and you make us look for better ways. So, and if there are other ways we can support you, please be sure and reach out and let us know.
Well, I feel like you guys push us. I think with bringing those 2 gentlemen in this past summer really made us think about other things. And then all of the support, the CT coffee hours, the CT SPED meetings. I mean, that you sit here and you're like, okay, what can we do better? Or what can we fine tune anything? So without all of those pieces, I mean, I don't know that any change would have happened in our district without that support and those ideas being brought to the table. So I do appreciate everything you guys do for us.
Well, I'm going to say thank you for sharing that, because Angela and I actually had a conversation yesterday that, our job is very different than the previous positions we've held in the past. And we facilitate and encourage, but we don't know for sure that you guys go back and do the things. And this is very fulfilling to hear that you do. It definitely, it's what I needed to hear. So thank you.
Well, I can echo that, Lisa. Obviously, between your emails and Angela's emails, right? Of, hey, Tom, I really think you should be at this meeting of this day, right? But you're prompting and you're helping and coaching and in a good way, right? So I carved out time. I had to step aside for an IEP there for a minute and do some different things. But really, I would echo what Valley says, what Becky says, right? Just that the reason to do something because we've always done it is a terrible reason to do it. And so I think having some fresh eyes on a lot of things has really been a great approach. And I've had a lot of good reception from my teachers when it comes to that stuff too. So when we approach it from why are we doing this? Well, we always have, well, wait a minute, is that the best reason? Yeah, looking at special ed approaches, the whole thing. So I really do appreciate the efforts from our SST group. Thank you. And the ESC.
Thank you.
I'm gonna tell you a little secret too, real quick. As much as we can talk about this stuff, one of the biggest impacts on everything is peer-to-peer, right? And when you think about that, anything from like a movie recommendation to a restaurant, but also, believe it or not, when we're talking about systemic implementation of evolutionary practices to support students, we're so grateful and appreciative to you doing this work and putting the time and the focus into this and giving us the opportunity to work with you, because as you saw on this call, right? Like, oh, I borrowed this idea from Morgan. I borrowed this from TPS. The impact that you're having is going to greatly exceed over time, exponentially and in a scaling up fashion, the work you're even doing in your own districts. So really the impact you're having on this, on kids everywhere is going to be very huge, which is one of the reasons we do this. So thank you, because we need the torchbearers, right? We need the pinnacles, the fountainheads, whatever you want to call it. But the people that are going to move through and do this work and take the time to do this work, because as people see you doing it, they say, oh, well, I didn't know that worked for a district like me, or that works for a big district like Toledo, but not a smaller district like Anthony Wayne, or vice versa. So seeing all of you doing this work is going to continue to have a very positive impact moving forward. So again, thank you.
Okay, with that, if there's nothing else, we were scheduled for 2 hours. I call this found time. It's like my favorite thing ever. Grab a cup of coffee, take a walk, and then dive back in.
Yeah, and just
So-
remember, you are getting contact hours for this time, so you will be getting a survey from the SST secretary. Make sure you fill out that survey. It'll be brief, and then you'll get your contact hours for this session.
And do we have a flyer thing we're sending out about the June 1st or anything like that? What are our next steps there?
We will.
Soon,
Right,
Aaron,
just
soon.
checking. Want to let y'all know, and we're looking to hold what days again? One more time, so we all have it on our calendars.
June 1st and 2nd.
June 1st, June 2nd. It'll be here before we know it. It's already
If
almost
any of you
Thanksgiving.
have conflicts with that date with your district, we aren't able to change the date, but we might be able to have conversations with your schools to help see the importance of the sessions. So please let us know if there are conflicts that we can reach out to other people in your district to talk about that.
I forgot to mention one thing. We are at the ESC, and SST is involved in some of the planning and talking about this, but we're holding a teacher camp this summer. Camp is, I forget what it means exactly. Oh, creating authentic, meaningful partnerships. And we're gearing this towards really not your career tech teachers. We're gearing it towards teachers grades 4 through 12 to help them see what's happening out there in the 4 big industries that are needed in Northwest Ohio. We're looking at hospitality, construction, healthcare, and manufacturing. And we'll be having some experiences in each one of those. Some speakers will be coming in. Kevin may be doing a little 1 hour intro to that. I gotta double check that with him. And the whole point is now go out, do these things, but then we're going to process them. How do you implement this into 4th grade math? And asking the teachers to create some processes and plans and then share them with one another. It'll be a full week long and it will start the week of June 12th. So that's going to come out soon too as an application because we can only take 15 to 20 people due to funding. And I think 15 to 20 is a lot too. So we're going to ask teachers to apply for that. There will also be a stipend available, a stipend application for districts that do not offer professional development money to their staff members. If they go out and do something like this. I know some districts offer like $25 an hour or whatever, but for those teachers that don't get that benefit, we're going to have an application for a stipend for that week as well. So that is coming up and we're really hoping to, again, get a broad range of teachers and not necessarily career tech teachers or STEM teachers. Not that we're excluding them, but it will be an application process. So that will be coming out very soon as well. So keep your eyes on that. And if you have people in your district you'd like to kind of forward that to, I'll make sure you get it. Okay. All right, that's all I've got.
I'm here. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.